Hello there, Razzle48 here, bringing you a very special video today to celebrate the release of Sora in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which, if you couldn't tell from my reaction, was quite possibly the biggest and most joy-bringing game-related reveal that I've ever experienced. Now, it's a new day, and I actually got some good sleep last night as opposed to just 3 hours, so I'm past breaking down about just how happy that made me. And I want to talk a little about my history with Smash and why exactly this reveal was such a monumental deal to me. I've never done any sort of Smash prediction videos in the past or done any gameplay videos prior to now or anything like that. But I have done a couple reactions to some of my favorites among Ultimate's DLC on my channel, and I've always been real big on speculation and prediction for Ultimate, even though I've never actually made any videos about it. It has always been a massive topic of conversation among groups that I've been in the past, and since I've never actually done a video on any of those predictions, I thought it'd be fun to come out and talk about what my predictions have been in the past and why, and how they've evolved as time went on throughout the game's lifespan, and just sort of give a detailed history of what I've thought about Smash Ultimate as the months have rolled by. And hopefully in doing so I can shed some light on why Sora's inclusion was so important to me, aside from the obvious fact that I'm a massive Kingdom Hearts fan and that those games played a massive role in my personal video game history and even done a great deal in shaping the person who I am today. Now, I'm going to give you a brief history of my experience with Smash before Ultimate to kind of give you an idea of the mentality that I had going into the most recent Smash game. I started playing Smash in 6th grade with the release of Brawl, which to this day remains my second favorite in the series next to Ultimate. Before getting into Brawl, I've never heard of Smash before. I was someone who was primarily into the PlayStation side of things, more so with Kingdom Hearts, obviously, and with games such as Sly Cooper. But crossovers in general, in gaming, were a big deal to me, and always seemed like such a big deal to me because of the impact that Kingdom Hearts had on me. If you followed my channel at all, you know how big of a deal BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle was to me, mainly because of the crossover aspect. Brawl's story mode incorporated this crossover aspect to a much greater degree than Ultimate's World of Light did, and definitely much more so than in any other Smash game as well. And I think that because of this, Brawl brought something to the table that was just never really done better in any of the previous Smash games, and because of that, it holds a special place in my heart even to this day. So it was an absolutely massive game for me. I played it all the time with the neighborhood kids. I even brought the manual with me to school to get excited for playing it after class let out. It got pretty effed up. I still have it, of course, but like you can tell how much this thing got read. That's another thing about Brawl. The manual was pretty great. Ultimate didn't even have a manual, or a physical one at least. I think all the manuals are done digitally now. But anyway, Brawl was also the first game I ever really got into modding, which is a pretty big deal because I usually just don't like modding games in general. But modding Brawl was so much fun, putting in character skins like Sora, like Yu Narukami, like Ragna the Blood Edge, was so much fun. Now, I did later go back and buy the original Super Smash Bros. That came prior to Brawl for the N64 and the GameCube, and while I do recall, in particular, spending a lot of fun hours playing the original N64 version because of how distinct it felt from Brawl, Melee never could really compete with the other two in my eyes. I don't think I even unlocked all the characters in Melee, even though the menus and whatnot reminded me of Super Smash Flash, which was a big deal to me. It was the game I used to play every day in computer class, even though it was directly inspired by Melee. But I somehow found it far more appealing. I mean, Sora was in it! Along with 2 Sonic OCs. And Mr. Incredible. Definitely seemed far more crazy than any official Smash game, that's for sure. But regardless, nothing ever really amounted to what Brawl was to me, even after I'd gone back and seen all that Smash had to offer at the time. I'd skipped out on buying a Wii U, so when Smash 4 came out, I stuck with playing it on the 3DS, which honestly never really diminished the experience for me, like you might think that it would, being played on a handheld console. I actually did, however, end up buying one of those GameCube-styled fight pads just for when I got to play with other people on the Wii U when I went to anime conventions or when I went to like the food court in college or anything like that. I got the Peach one. I love Peach. She's my main even to this day. But this was about the time that I started to get into Smash a lot more competitively. I was not a tournament goer by any means, and I'm still not, I assure you. But with the addition of online play and seeing higher level players when I went to events such as anime conventions, or even just when I played locally with people in college, there was a lot of really competitive Smash players at my college. I began to give the game a lot more time and try a lot more actively to improve. Unlike going into Brawl, before which I'd never actually played a fighting game before, I'd spent a lot of time with BlazBlue and Persona 4 Arena prior to going into Smash 4, so I had a lot more understanding of how to get better at fighting games, even though Smash was pretty dissimilar to anything ArcSys has ever made. And so the game did obviously become a bigger deal to me once I began to take it more seriously. But nobody cares about any of that, right? You're here for the DLC discussion, yeah. However, in regards to Smash 4, there wasn't really much to say. I didn't keep up with the announcements and whatnot for Smash 4, like, at all. And I couldn't look back and tell you approximately when or where any of the characters announced for Smash 4's base roster or the DLC, were announced. I couldn't tell you when it happened, where it happened, like what the popular guesses were at the time. And I didn't really care about the game nearly as much as I came to care about Ultimate, even before Ultimate's release. I was a lot more excited for Ultimate, understandably so. I did buy a Switch, so I would be able to play it on the big screen like I'd only been able to do at anime conventions and special events on for the Wii U and 3DS version. I was also excited for being able to play online matches with much more stable internet. Trust me, if you think Ultimate's netcode is bad, try playing 4 on the 3DS. The base roster, as it was progressively getting revealed, was a lot more exciting to me too. Echo fighters in particular, such as Daisy and Chrom, as well as the brand new fighters such as Richter, Simon, and Cinnaror, all those characters seemed much more appealing to me than the new inclusions that Smash 4 had back in the day, such as Duck Hunt, Little Mac, Mega Man. Like, even just throwing, like, Ken in, being as similar to Ryu as he was just much more exciting than, like, any of Smash 4's new base characters were to me. And that generated a lot of excitement for me pre-release to Ultimate than 4 did, because I was able to see a character like Simon and say, oh wow, that's really cool. And I didn't really have a moment like that with Smash 4. I mean, Shulk was cool, but at the time I didn't know what Xenoblade was. When Ultimate came out, it was a big deal to me. I was pretty big into Smash for the first time in a long time. And that's where the meat of this discussion starts. Now, to begin with, I didn't really have many expectations for Ultimate's DLC. It is true that since everyone was here, Ultimate couldn't make half of its DLC characters simply returning fighters like Smash 4 did. But I found that in the long run, I didn't really care about the majority of Smash 4's newcomers. I was never really big on Street Fighter or Final Fantasy and had never even heard of Bayonetta. And while I was a pretty big Fire Emblem fan, I think everyone can agree that of all the Fire Emblem characters in Smash, to this day, Byleth included, Corrin's inclusion was the least deserving, even more so since he was a DLC character. Fates are the only Fire Emblem games that I've ever purchased that I didn't see through to completion. While Corrin did, in the long run, end up being pretty fun to play to me, hey, what can I say, a counter killing at 50% is pretty crazy, am I right? I didn't really think much more of any of Smash 4's DLC after they came out, which only made Joker's reveal impact me even more.
What? I'm a little bit behind. No!
What? What? What?
Up against the best of the
What? What?
fearless leaders show his stuff.
What? In my opinion, Joker from Persona 5 was undeniably the biggest way Sakurai could have kicked off the Smash Ultimate DLC hype train. I did sit through 2 to 3 hours of nothingness at the Game Awards for it, and let me tell you, it was worth it. I don't think I had ever at that point been more wowed by a video game reveal except maybe for the original first trailer for BB Tag back at EVO in, what, 2018 or something? And in a flash, my expectations and excitement for Smash Ultimate's DLC had went from mediocre to suddenly soaring into the heavens. Even more so after Sakurai's showcase of the character. It felt like so much more than anything Smash related I'd ever seen had ever been. And while at this point, I was still giving the majority of my attention to BlazBlue Cross Tag Battles reveals and predictions for those, I did actually get pretty intense into speculation for Ultimate's DLC riding off of Joker's hype. Originally after Joker, I had made two lists. One of characters who I wanted to get in, and one of characters who I thought would get in. The list of characters I wanted to get in were as follows. In 4th place, Monokuma from Danganronpa. In 3rd place, Sly Cooper. In 2nd place, Ragna the Blood Edge from BlazBlue. And in 1st, Sora, of course. However, I immediately knew upon making this list that half these characters were completely unrealistic. It's just what I personally wanted. Sly Cooper and Monokuma had practically no chance of getting into Smash whatsoever, with Sly Cooper being a PlayStation exclusive that's also completely dead in the water right now, while Monokuma is a lot more niche than the people in the Danganronpa community realize. At the end of the day, that game is a visual novel, and while you do get to see Monokuma fight in the spin-off game Ultra Despair Girls a little, there isn't much there to make a moveset out of. And I knew that that game wasn't really big enough to begin with to be a Smash DLC contender after the standard that they set with Joker. And speaking of what I thought could contend for the spots, the list of characters that I thought were going to get in the game were, in 4th place, Lloyd from the Tales games, Byleth from Three Houses in 3rd place, Dante from Devil May Cry in 2nd, and Sora in 1st, of course. Ragna the Blood Edge, while I did think he was possible at least, and had a chance due to multiple BlazBlue titles such as Continuum Shift 2 and Cross Tag Battle being on Nintendo consoles, BlazBlue just wasn't big enough to actually be considered, especially as time went on and hype for BB Tag died down less and less and was gradually replaced with hype for the upcoming Guilty Gear Strive. Guilty Gear had also had past titles on the Nintendo consoles. I know there was something about a Guilty Gear game on Game Boy at some point, which I find pretty hard to believe. And Guilty Gear is technically bigger than BlazBlue, and Soul and Ragna are pretty comparable. They both use the same similar type of big sword, and even have some pretty similar moves, such as their respective DPs. But again, I thought Guilty Gear still, being the face of Arc System Works, still wasn't quite big enough to compete with Smash representation, which is why I came up with the list of predictions that I did. I knew nothing about the Tales games, but I did know that Lloyd was a highly requested character. Heck, I even remember seeing him in Super Smash Flash back in the day. And Bandai was a pretty big company that was definitely worthy of receiving a rep on the Fighter's Pass, as was Capcom, which was a big reason why Dante was also on my list. No one can dismiss Devil May Cry's impact on gaming and its popularity, and there were several instances sprinkled throughout Ultimate's lifespan that made me think that Dante was a shoo-in for one reason or another. Even the most likely character to get added out of anyone seemed like Dante at some points. What's more, both Tales and Devil May Cry were relevant in modern day, and new releases to their respective series were still being released. And we knew that Nintendo had established ties to both of their ownership companies. Byleth was my choice for first-party inclusion. It was either that or get a Gen 8 Pokemon, but Incineroar had not been revealed too long ago at this point in time, and Three Houses had been a major success. Absolutely everyone who played Three Houses loved it, and so it just made the most sense to me. And then, of course, there was Sora, my personal #1 pick for most likely and most wanted character. Let's count the reasons Sora had to get in, shall we? The #1 reason was fan popularity. You saw people asking for Sora everywhere. I saw all kinds of fan polls, both real and fake, that listed Sora as the most requested character. This was further reflected in the most recent Sora reveal, where Sakurai stated that even as far back as Smash 4, Sora was the most requested character in the official Fighters ballot. I definitely remember voting for him. Even though in Smash 4 I didn't really think that could happen, it just seemed too far off. But Joker's inclusion had changed my mind about that. If they could get Joker, they could get anyone. I know Joker probably wasn't the most difficult character to get the rights to. I know Atlas has kind of given him away to like a few different companies, to say the least. But if you look back at discussions from before his announcement, you'll realize just how unrealistic his inclusion sounded at the time. So anyway, Sora definitely had fan popularity. He was also modern day relevant, just like Dante and Lloyd and their franchises. And he could be considered a legacy character on top of that, just like with Devil May Cry and Tales. Kingdom Hearts had games that went back as far as 2002. Nintendo had of course established connections with Square Enix in order to put Cloud in Smash 4 to begin with. It had connections with Kingdom Hearts too, with multiple Kingdom Hearts games appearing on Nintendo consoles throughout the franchise's history. In addition to all that, Sakurai himself was a well-known fan of the Kingdom Hearts series, and that wasn't exactly something that a lot of other franchises could brag too confidently about being. However, the argument that I heard over and over again for those several months between Joker's and Hero's reveal was, of course, Disney. Everyone said Disney was a problem. Disney owned Sora. Disney would never let it happen. I feel like I was the only one who felt the opposite. Disney is a massive company. It absolutely loves marketing. You'd think they would absolutely jump at the opportunity to put Sora in Smash and have their own representation in one of the biggest video game franchises in history. Don't you think they'd want their Mickey Mouse symbol in the Super Smash Bros? Look at how big it is! Disney knows that, they aren't stupid. Besides, Disney is known to have a very close relationship with Nintendo and its family-friendly marketing, a lot more so than it does with any other video game system. Remember how the Wreck-It Ralph game was only available on Nintendo consoles? Or any of the several instances of Disney games being exclusive for Nintendo consoles, such as the Disney Magical World games that were only on 3DS. And these are just a couple examples off the top of my head. There's tons of them! Heck, there were Mickey Mouse games developed by Nintendo that go as far back as the Game & Watch series. Disney loves getting whatever they can out of their licenses. You can't go to Walmart without seeing, like, Frozen backpacks, freaking Disney Princess cups, the Lion King plate set. They try to do it all. So, as the actual owners of Sora, why would he be any different? I even remember Disney making a public statement that they'd be okay with Sora's inclusion, though unfortunately I can no longer find any record of it. But think about it. If Disney was as much of a hard ass as people made it out to be, Kingdom Hearts would never have been able to continue on for as long as it has. It wouldn't have even gotten half as far as it has today, much less appearing on practically every gaming platform to date at this point. We're talking Nintendo consoles, Xbox consoles, PlayStation consoles, and pretty much all of each of those that had been released since Kingdom Hearts conceptually. We mean PS2, we mean Game Boy, we mean PSP, we mean the DS, the 3DS, we mean the Switch. It was all ported to the more modern PS4 and Xbox systems, even PC at this point. I think it was clear they were perfectly happy letting Kingdom Hearts spread. But I guess no one else ever saw it that way, because no matter how much I said this sort of stuff over and over and over and over again, all I ever heard was Disney won't let it happen. But I didn't let that sway me. I held fast to the evidence that Sora was an absolute prime pick for Smash Ultimate's DLC inclusion. That was, of course, until the second reveal. Hero's reveal absolutely devastated me. Unlike Joker, I wasn't able to catch this reveal live. I woke up to see Hero's face appear on my YouTube feed and my heart just plummeted. Spoiler alert, won't be the first time that happens either. But anyway, I knew all about the leaks circulating around that Erdrick was in development for Smash, and they just didn't seem credible to me. After all, while I did understand Dragon Quest had quite the legacy and popularity in Japan, it was one of those games that I'd never heard of. I'd never heard anyone talk about Dragon Quest, I'd never heard of anyone who played Dragon Quest, and it just seemed completely unrealistic that Sakurai would go with a pick that alienates so many people outside of Japan just to get a localized favorite into the game. Maybe it was something I could have seen them doing for Smash 4, but given the fact that Joker was the character before him, and that Joker was announced at the Game Awards, which I don't think anyone would claim to be bigger than DE3, I just thought that they'd try and top the previous performance they had with Joker with a character who would be as universally loved as he is, if not more so. But nope! We got Hero. A character so controversial that he spawned the Hose Mad meme. Think about that. This character's inclusion made that because of all the hoes he made mad. I was definitely one of those hoes. I mean, come on, Dragon Quest? It sounds like the most generic, stereotypical video game ever. Even more so than Zelda, which founded the stereotypes of the fantasy adventure genre. I even remember there was so much talk about banning this character upon release too. Not only does he remain one of the most absolute nightmares to fight against online to this day, but he relies on RNG like no other. More than Game & Watch, more than Peach, and the competitive Smash community hates RNG. However, what I personally found to be a much better and more logical reason to ban him in tournaments was that if you went against a player from another country, the game language would need to be set so they could read their hero menu. What if two hero mains needed to read in two different languages? What if someone has trained to respond to their character's English voice lines and uses that as cues to how to like time their combos and whatnot? I'm not gonna get too into all that. But the point here is that Hero's release was a dumpster fire for a lot of people. Of course, Banjo got revealed at the same event, and if anything, I'm happy Banjo got in because I have a close friend who really loves him, but to me, Banjo was a character I felt very middle of the road about. I knew he was highly requested and had quite the legacy, but I had no special feelings towards him, and would normally have just felt meh about him and just said, oh, cool. Anyway, and had that sort of mentality, not thinking anything was special there, but not being mad either. But Hero had just dragged down my attitude towards that whole reveal event so much that he made me look upon Banjo in a much more negative manner than I usually would have. As you could probably guess, the reason I was so mad about Hero was that he belonged to Square Enix. He was the Square Enix rep for the Season Pass. Back in the Smash 4 Pass, every new character belonged to a different company, with Ryu belonging to Capcom, Corrin being the first-party Nintendo character, Cloud belonging to Square Enix, and while Bayonetta was sort of becoming a Nintendo IP due to the shenanigans that went down resulting in Nintendo being directly responsible for the creation of Bayonetta 2, which also led it to be a Wii U exclusive, even that was still mostly known as a Platinum Games property, at least to my knowledge. There was no reason to believe that other than the possible exception of first-party characters, that this game was going to be any different, and I was fully expecting the last two characters to be Capcom and Bandai representatives, considering the fact that it was looking more and more like this entire pass was going to be third parties. I won't go too into the spiraling pit of depression I plummeted into when I saw Terry's reveal, mainly because Fatal Fury hasn't had a new game since the 90s. But suffice to say, this was the perfect example of a character who got in for no other reason than Sakurai wanted him in. This is what we call peak Piranha Plant, but the third-party edition. At least, that's what I thought at first, but I then came to the realization that this character has a massive fan base in Latin America that I just had no idea existed. When I realized that, everything slowly started to make sense from a certain perspective that I gradually began to take on the more I examined the previous selections. The vast majority of this pass, Joker excluded, was tailored specifically to appeal to the tastes of certain regions. If Terry was a character for Latin America, then Hero would have been the character for Japan, and Banjo would have been the character for the West. Specifically the United States, because I don't think he was nearly as big in Europe. This wasn't a conclusion that I was able to come to with just the Hero and Banjo reveals. I began thinking that the last character might be someone who appealed to European audiences specifically for this reason, but honestly nothing came to mind. I had a few buddies of mine who lived over in Europe, Britain specifically, who I talked to, and their taste never seemed too different from those I saw over here. They liked the same sort of stuff. Kingdom Hearts, Nier, Devil May Cry, much of the same stuff. I never saw any outlandish differences, like how Japan feels so much differently about Dragon Quest, and how America feels so much differently about Banjo, in contrast to one another. Speaking of, on the topic of Devil May Cry, that's where my mind finally began to gravitate towards. Dante was a huge character, and even though I personally never got into the franchise, I couldn't deny that he would have been a perfect final pick to finish off Smash Ultimate's DLC. I saw a lot of other people begin to speculate and guess at Dante too, and for a lot of the reasons that I had for why I thought Joker could get in. You know, modern day relevance with the legacy spanning multiple console generations, and a ton of fan popularity, in addition to being from a company that Nintendo had a close relationship with. They'd given Capcom a character in the previous Smash's Fighters Pass, and what's more, Capcom hadn't had a character in Ultimates yet. I definitely saw more people vying for Capcom to get a character than Bandai, and while Bandai did most certainly have its fans, they didn't seem neither as plentiful nor as passionate as Capcom's. If we were wrong and it wasn't Dante, then surely it had to be Phoenix Wright or another equally big Capcom representative, right?
Oh my god, I actually love it.
Byleth was another character that, like Hero, I wasn't able to catch the reveal of live. However, before Sora, this was the only Smash reaction that I'd put up on my channel aside from Joker, and for good reason. Everyone was furious about Byleth's inclusion because Fire Emblem Sword user. But I was ecstatic, because since Hero had made me give up on Sora, and the other characters I wanted were practically pipe dreams at this point, I was not expecting to see another character in the game who I really liked and really felt good about. But I was real deep into Three Houses at this time and couldn't have been happier to see my top pick for a first-party inclusion be the one that they chose to go with. Three Houses remains to this day my favorite game on the Switch. Even just the music being in Smash is amazing. That game probably has the best music that's in Smash to this day, in my opinion. Plus, Byleth has a Dimitri color, which, on top of being awesome as it is, also doubles as a Jin Kisaragi color, which is the second best thing I could ask for next to Ragna getting in Smash and bringing Lustin into the game with him somehow. I mean, really, could you imagine that? That'd be the greatest thing ever. But Byleth didn't come along. Oh no! Byleth came with Sakurai's promise of a second Fighter's Pass that was even bigger than the first. Exciting. Exciting, yes. But I knew better than to suddenly start thinking Sora was a shoo-in like I had before Hero's release. After all, Capcom and Bandai hadn't gotten a character yet, and there was bound to be at least one more first party, along with some sudden possibilities of them branching out further into some stuff like Master Chief, Crash Bandicoot, or even that Ragna pick I wanted, which, funnily enough, I was beginning to hope for even more than Sora at this point. But while I did let my imagination run wild a bit, I didn't have any solid guesses at this point for individual characters, more so just guesses for the companies. I guessed a Bandai and Capcom character as I had before, being Lloyd and Dante still, as well as another first party. The concept of Crash Bandicoot getting in, again, was something that was slowly formulating in my mind as well, but I still didn't actually guess that he was going to be in yet. I didn't actually make that prediction officially. I just began to get some of the foundings of it, you could say. Sakurai had said before that the characters for Fighter's Pass 2 had been decided before the first one was even revealed. And the fact that they seemed like they were going to be taking longer to develop each individual character for the second Fighter's Pass, even before the pandemic started up and began to slow things down, really gave me the impression that these Fighter's Pass 2 characters were going to be a big deal. Even though I didn't know what to expect yet, I was the most hopeful I had been since seeing Joker steal himself a spot in the roster.
The fighter included in Wave 6 of the paid Super Smash Bros. Ultimate DLC will be... joining the battle from ARMS.
When ARMS was revealed to be the franchise this first spot was going to, I was underwhelmed. But as no standard had been set for the second season pass yet, I wasn't really what you would call upset. I knew that this pass should be viewed as separate from the first, aside from the fact that the first pass had given certain companies DLC spots already, but other than that, I tried to disconnect the two as far as expectations went, as well as clues that could possibly hint towards who may be coming next. I feel like them announcing it was going to be an ARMS character before the actual reveal was a smart move that softened the blow for a lot of people whose expectations may have been getting a little too high, thinking the first character was going to be someone on the level of Joker. Another thing that this announcement did was give us time to think, mostly about who the ARMS fighter was going to be. Personally, I didn't get too involved in the few discussions that I did see take place because, much like everyone else, I'd never played ARMS in my life. But what I did begin to think was that this was very possibly going to be a fighter's pass that was first-party characters only. That would explain why there was an extra fighter in this one as opposed to the first pass. Because if this was a first-party pass, these characters' rights were going to be much easier to obtain. And with that in mind, I drastically decreased my expectations for any future reveals. The one thing that I was definitely expecting for this pass at this point was a Pokemon, given Gen 8's fresh recent release. Sword and Shield did have a bit of controversy upon release, yes, due to the lack of national decks and the several graphical flaws, but remember, Sakurai had stated in Violet's trailer that the picks for Season Pass 2 had already been decided, and we didn't know exactly how far ago that had taken place, which was very possibly before Sword and Shield's release. Remember, Gen 8 had gotten a fully evolved water starter in the game being Greninja, and Gen 7 had gotten a fully evolved fire starter in the game being Incineroar. It only made sense for Gen 8 to follow suit with its grass starter, and so Rillaboom had suddenly become my #1 prediction for Fighters Pass 2. But before I even had the chance to be proven wrong, Min Min got revealed as the ARMS character. While she wasn't my personal preferred pick among the candidates, I still think she was a great choice as far as ARMS reps go. With one little problem, one tiny thing that terrified me to no end. Min Min was already a spirit in the game. I know a lot of people who told me this didn't matter, that spirits could get in anyway, but I never saw it that way. After all, if a character was already in the game, then that character was already in the game! If they could just take a spirit and make them a character, and then give that same character another spirit, then all of a sudden, not only were characters that I'd previously regarded as impossible, like Shantae, Paper Mario, and Geno, back on the table, but also I suddenly had to consider assist trophies too, specifically Waluigi. That's the one everyone talks about, of course. After all, if they could just make a fighter out of a character who already exists in one of the game's current mechanics, then they certainly could do the same for others. And that was what I began to think would take up the rest of this pass's fighter slots. Spirits and assist trophies. And Rillaboom. And maybe some other first parties. But then E3 rolled around once again and we got Steve! Steve broke the internet that day. I remember that this was one of the trailers that I stayed up for. I stayed up all through the night until 7 in the morning. I think that's the time that this reveal had happened for me. I remember actually thinking that it was Sora at first because when Mario got thrown into the darkness like that and you could see the red eyes of the spiders, I thought they were heartless. Just tired deliriousness, I guess. But nope, Steve! Steve was way more exciting than I thought he'd be for me. Like Banjo, he was one of those characters I felt neither super positively nor super negatively about. But I ended up feeling really good about this reveal, for a couple reasons. For one, Steve's inclusion disproved my previous theory about this being a first-party only Fighters Pass. While I still definitely thought Rillaboom was the most likely candidate for a new character, this made a lot of other possibilities in my mind also a lot more likely than they had seemed before. Characters such as Doomguy and Ryu from Ninja Gaiden, for example, were among these characters, and I had never seriously considered characters like that before this point. And then, of course, Dante and Lloyd went back to the forefront of my mind again, being the first initial picks, and still the ones I thought were most likely, with there still being no Capcom nor Bandai rep. Another thing that I really liked about Steve's inclusion was that, for as big as Minecraft was, Steve was technically counted as an indie rep for the Fighters Pass. At least that's what my friends and I thought. I know he's technically owned by Microsoft, and feel free to disagree in the comments, but this made Shantae seem super less likely to me personally. Short-lived dream, that one. Rip Shantae fans, at least you got your song. But of course, I can't not mention how my hopes for Sora's inclusion were steadily rising once again. I didn't want them to, mind you. I knew I'd never again get as much evidence for him getting in as I had going into Hero's reveal. Even though Square had already gotten a rep in Ultimate's DLC, I wanted to believe! And I was slowly convincing myself to, little by little. Until... Sephiroth is such a great character. I want to make that clear right now. My disappointment at seeing Sephiroth was only because he was a Square rep for the second Fighters Pass and basically killed my dreams of Sora yet again. This time practically for good. Usually in this situation, I'd be furious. See Hero. But I wasn't furious. Because even though it wasn't Sora, Sephiroth is such a great pick. Many have stated in the past that Smash is very lacking in villain representation, and Sephiroth was the perfect pick to address that. He's definitely among the best villains in video game history. Not the best though. That's Hazama. That will always be Hazama. But even though it was bittersweet, I was happy. I was happy. And you know what? I was content too. Because I genuinely thought I wasn't going to get to be happy at a Smash Brothers announcement ever again. Byleth was literally the only first-party character that I would have been excited for unless they decided to pick someone else from Three Houses. But when Sephiroth got revealed, I'd been given a reason to smile again. Even though I'd finally, truly given up hope on the Sora dream. Then Pyra and Mithra happened. Honestly, there's not much I have to say about this one. Sakurai had mentioned how he initially wanted Rex in the game a while back, but didn't have time to get him into the base roster, so this made perfect sense. Min Min had already shown Spirits could get in as well, so again, no surprise there really. I also wasn't really surprised to see another first party either. It definitely felt like a great pick for one though. Definitely better than Rillaboom. Thank you, Sakurai. This reveal is actually what got me into Xenoblade too. Both games, steelbooks and all, check these bad boys out. Once again, I was happy. I got to experience a character's inclusion who got me into a new series that I'm still only beginning to get into today and looking forward to delving deeper into. I was dumbfounded that, again, I felt positively about a character choice, even though I know I'm super picky and wait, I felt positively about 3 characters in a row. It was a bloody miracle. And suddenly, I was getting excited for Smash DLC again, just like I had been between Joker and Hero. This time, there wasn't anything in particular I was expecting. It's worth noting that after Steve, I was basically predicting either Dante or Crash for the next 3 reveals in a row. And obviously we never got them, but I didn't really care. I honestly felt like I was getting just as happy, if not more so, with what we did get. And that was amazing to me because, excluding Byleth, I'd been used to disappointment in this game for a long time. Remember, Joker came out super early in the game's lifespan. I'd felt like I'd been let down the vast majority of the time throughout the game's release, and I didn't feel like that anymore. I was beginning to look back on Terry, Banjo, and Min Min with a lot more positivity than I had before. Not Hero, though. Hero sucks. Except...
Get ready for the next battle.
Kazuya happens next. I don't know why I was so upset at this reveal, but I was really salty about Kazuya's reveal. I don't know, I can't really put my finger on why. Maybe it was because if they wanted to get a rep from one of Bandai's 3D games, they could have picked Siegfried or Nightmare from Soul Calibur, which I would have vastly preferred, or Maybe it was because I just felt Lloyd would have been a better pick from the company in general, even though I personally didn't care about him too much, despite having predicted him for a long time. Maybe it was because I just felt Dante or Crash would have been cooler.
What the hell is this?
Maybe it was because several of his moves looked like they'd just been copied and pasted from Ken's moveset, or maybe it was simply because I'd been spoiled, and in some corner of my heart, had been expecting something else I would have ended up happy with for yet another time in a row. There's several reasons it could have been, but for whatever reason, this left a really bad taste in my mouth. It wasn't nearly as bad as Hero, I can say that, not nearly as bad. I even had a lot of fun ranting about Kazuya. That and the fact that my Crash or Dante prediction had been wrong 3 reveals in a row. And speaking of, it was this reveal that Dante got revealed to be a Mii fighter. Not just him, but Shantae too. Now this was a big deal, because to me, this was a direct statement saying the next character is going to be bigger than Dante, bigger than Shantae, bigger than Dragonborn. And that was a head scratcher. I stuck predicting Crash as the last character for a long time. People did keep bringing up Doom Guy, but I never really considered him. Doom Guy was nowhere near on Crash's level of popularity and requests. And for the first reveal since before Byleths, or heck, maybe even before Heroes, I began to get some pretty big expectations for the character selected. Not big for me personally, mind you, but I mean in general. I thought Crash and maybe Master Chief were the only possible choices that could live up to the build-up that they were creating for this reveal. Again, Sora was simply not on the table for me. Not after Square had not only gotten a rep in Pass 1, but Pass 2 as well. It simply didn't seem possible as a concept. I said I wanted it more than anything, yes, but I didn't expect it. Not at all. I did see the Disney Music leak stating from some dude who claimed to work at Disney Music that Nintendo had called about using music in an online event on the 5th, guessing the reveal date for the final fighter correctly, but honestly I felt like the hope that I began to scrape from that was just desperation because of how long I've wanted Sora and how much I wanted a reason, any reason, to believe that he'd come. I said I wanted him. I said I hoped so much that it was Sora, but in my heart, I just didn't believe it. Not ever since Hero got into the game did I genuinely, truly believe Sora was coming. Especially not after Sephiroth. And so on the night before the last Smash reveal, I stayed up late with a friend of mine to catch the midnight release of Nickelodeon All-Star Battle Royale, which we proceeded to play all the way until 5 a.m. We had fun, and I went to bed not at all expecting to wake up for the reveal happening in 3 or 4 hours. I just thought I'd turn on my phone and look at my feed and see whatever happened. But I did wake up for it. I hadn't set an alarm or anything. I woke up after 3 and something hours of sleep, saw the reveal is going to happen in 15 minutes, and you know what I did? I lied back in bed and tried to go back to sleep. I just said, F it, I'll just see what when I wake up. But about 5 minutes passed and I felt restless. I really did. So, you know, I just had to get up and see it. And so, that's exactly what I did. That's why I looked so dead in my reaction. I really wasn't planning to do it. It wasn't like the BB tag reveals where I intentionally stayed up and knew that no matter what happened, it was going to be exciting. But this time, I really wasn't expecting to be there live for it. And I wasn't expecting anything that I wanted from it either, or anything that would have made me happy, or anything like that. But I was there. I was, and it happened. Is it a Keyblade? I was a mess. I know everyone else who wanted Sora was screaming with hype or crying or anything, but me, I just felt like I just broke. Seeing that happen with no sleep, mind you, I just lost it. I look so hideous in that reaction. It's cringe. Honestly, it's cringe. I will admit it. It's even I don't want to look at it. I got some pretty hateful comments on that reaction too that I had to delete, and I got quite a few dislikes for my reaction too, that's for sure. But I was just so emotional. It was something I'd always hoped for. It had been all I've wanted for years. Ever since the BB tag reveal stopped, it was all I wanted in video games. It was all I wanted for Smash, that's for sure. Just the only thing I'd wanted for a video game in general for so long. I was known as the Sora for Smash guy. All my friends cried when they saw Sora's reveal for me. Like, they didn't even care about Sora like that much. This meant the absolute world to me. I've been in countless arguments trying to argue as to why Sora could happen. After how much Kingdom Hearts had done for me in my childhood and in my life after my childhood, and this was an incomparably monumental occasion, and I couldn't be happier. Truly, really, I couldn't. The game feels complete. All those characters before that I'd not felt so good about seemed great now. Kazuya seems cool, Banjo seems cool, Terry seems slick as crap, Steve is awesome, Min, it's like they all seem so cool and awesome now. Except for Hero. Hero sucks. So that's been my personal journey with Smash that honestly has really just been a road leading up to this moment of Sora getting into the game. At the time of writing this script, it's a little over a week until Sora's release, and I am so thrilled, so excited. Even though we didn't get Ragna, we didn't get BlazBlue music like Lust Sin, even though that would have been the best music in Smash, like, let's be real. Even though we didn't get a Roxas alternate costume, or Roxas's battle theme, or Donald and Goofy in the background, or anything like that, I wouldn't want it any other way. Like, this is it. This is how things feel like they should be. Huh. Speaking of which, everyone talks about how Disney didn't let them use Donald and Goofy in the background. Personally, I think it was Sakurai himself who made that decision. Sakurai has always said that Smash is a celebration of gaming and game characters, and Donald and Goofy aren't video game characters. Well, maybe the details of what exactly happened behind the scenes in the legal department in terms of the decisions they made will get revealed one day. I do know that back in the Smash 4 days, Sakurai went directly to Disney Japan and asked for Sora, and he was told no. However, Sora getting into Ultimate happened. I'm glad it did. This really is the best send-off for Smash that I could possibly think of. Let me know in the comments what your journey through Super Smash Bros. History has been like. If there's any moments for you that nothing else in life will ever quite be like. Maybe I'll actually make some Smash content with Sora. Let me know if you'd like to see that, actually seeing me play a game on the channel for once instead of just talking about them. I've made it clear how much Sora being in Smash means to me, and I truly hope it's something special to you too, because as cheesy as it sounds, this reveal is what's reminded me that dreams can come true. And on that note, this is Razzle48 saying goodbye, and I'll see you next time.